from Augusta. You're watching News 12 at 6 o'clock.
A legal battle brewing after the death of Freddie Walker. Our I-team has new video of his time with burnt deputies and details on who will represent the family in court.
But first tonight, where is Jamila Smith? That is the question investigators are trying to solve as we speak. Just hours ago, our cameras caught investigators combing through two homes for evidence on Old Jackson Highway, right near her last known location.
Meanwhile, her estranged boyfriend, Daniel Harmon, charged with kidnapping and second-degree domestic violence. He's also listed as a person of interest in the case.
But the story continues to unfold. Our Hallie Turner joins us live in the newsroom with some new details about his criminal history and what led up to her disappearance. Well, just hours ago, more than 5 unmarked Aiken County investigator vehicles were in the shared street of the old home on Jackson Highway. This may be a new case for them, but the name Daniel Harmon is one reports show they've known for years. Daniel Harmon may be a stranger to you, but to law enforcement, he's a familiar face. He was charged with obstruction after a fight with his girlfriend, who's now missing, broke out at the Richmond County Fair in October. She was charged too. Wednesday, investigators spent most of the morning off Old Jackson Highway, where they believe Harmon kidnapped 30-year-old Jamila Smith. She was last seen on this driveway. We saw more than 5 unmarked Aiken County vehicles, with investigators pulling items from the home and retracking the couple's every step. But we also tracked the couple's steps and found, in addition to that fair charge, deputies in Aiken County have had run-ins with Harmon more than 30 times over the span of a decade. His charges range from traffic violation to drug possession and neglect of children. In 2015, he pled guilty to simple battery family violence for pushing a woman in the forehead. In 2016, he was the driver in a hit and run, spending 5 years on probation with a hefty fine. Records show he's also faced a judge in Augusta for more than 20 different charges across state lines. In 2012, he shot a man, but the aggravated assault charge was later reduced to reckless conduct. Now again, Jamila was last seen Saturday, and at this time there is still no sign of her, but Harmon will appear before a judge Thursday at 3. So Hallie, just before she was last seen on Saturday, there was a 911 call. Tell us a little bit about what they heard in that call. So what we know so far is that she was on the phone in her driveway, and she had just gotten back from a trip with her boyfriend from Columbia, South Carolina, and investigators say that dispatch heard her on that call saying that they had just arrived at this location and that she was trying to get away from her boyfriend but had run down the street to get away from him, and all of a sudden they heard a loud horn and telling her to get into the car, and that was it. Certainly doesn't bode well for her safety or her well-being, so they want to find her as quickly as they can. If you know anything about this case, definitely call law enforcement.
Hallie Turner in our newsroom tonight. Thanks, Hallie, for the update.
Weather-wise today, it's across the CSRA. Friday morning, we're going to get close to freezing, but you can see there is a warming trend heading into the weekend. I'll have a full look at that weekend forecast in just about 10 minutes.
Almost a month after a shocking death at Fort Eisenhower, a military spouse, April Short, is now indicted on 2 counts of murder in the death of her 11-month-old son. The Short's charges are listed as premeditated murder and felony murder. Short is accused of cutting the child's throat at the family's home on post, quoting here, so he could be with Jesus and God. She's in custody as the case moves forward. The family of Freddie Walker is taking more legal steps after the death of their loved one.
They say prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump will represent them when that case is filed. Walker died back in July after a confrontation on Bailey Road just outside of Louisville. Deputies used their stun guns to restrain him after being described as a combative mental subject. An investigation found deputies were not at fault.
But the family believes otherwise, and Will Rio is in the studio with us. So, Will, what have you learned about this case?
Yeah, the family says that they're still upset with how this whole thing was happened on that night back in July 27th. They say that they feel like deputies had multiple opportunities to subdue Freddie Walker, but instead tased him 4 times. Now, Ben Crump, representing the Walker family here, he's most known for his involvement with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. He also has been involved with a local case involving Breonna Greer, who died in the custody of the Hancock County Sheriff's Office. But here's a look at the body cam from that night with Freddie Walker. During that incident, EMA was called to a home outside of Louisville, Georgia for a mental health evaluation and transport. EMA notified deputies they needed help because Walker was being combative with them. Now, deputies were aware Walker had mental health issues before arriving on scene. When they got there, they were told that Walker was schizophrenic and was hearing voices. They eventually stepped in and Walker was tased 4 times. Now, after the investigation, Columbia County's use of force team found that deputies acted within reason in restraining Walker. District Attorney Jared Williams backed this ruling as well. Now, as a result of this incident, Freddie Walker later died at the hospital, and his family, of course, is now searching for answers here. All new tomorrow night, our I-Team is digging deeper into this body cam, and we'll show you how this whole thing panned out back in July.
Well, thanks for the update there. Also new in the last hour, Michaela McLean, the animal shelter director of McDuffie County, who was recently arrested, has officially been let go from that job. In November, McLean was arrested and charged with cruelty to children for deprivation of sustenance after DFACS got a report that a 2-year-old was exposed to THC. The shelter has not had it easy over the last year. County officials hired McLean in July to fill the position after the previous director, Wendy Ivy, resigned 4 months into that job. Before then, the shelter faced allegations of animal cruelty and some abnormalities with paperwork. And the county called in the GBI to open an investigation. Since then, most of those complaints have been resolved. Now the county says they'll begin the search for a new animal services director in the new year. The county also recently hired Catherine Bowler as the animal services facility manager. Her hiring was already in process before any other personnel changes, and adoptions are still by appointment only there at the shelter.
Tonight, a mother of 11 remains behind bars with her oldest son. Both are charged with the murder in the death of 4-year-old Zyke Ryans. The young boy died after being shot in his home. News 12's Sydney Hood is learning more about that home and what caseworkers were told about who pulled the trigger.
Happy birthday, as red and blue balloons fade into the dark sky, tears shed on the ground. This was on what would have been Zyke Ryan's 5th birthday. He never got a chance to blow out his 5 candles. Zyke was shot in the head weeks prior on November 13th, and then on November 25th, he was declared brain dead. It happened inside his apartment, and documents we requested from the Department of Family and Children's Services tells us 12 people were in the home. 3 did not live there, and most of them were minors. All the names are hidden for privacy reasons. DFACS interviewed 3 of the children inside the apartment. Documents say a 3-year-old told them a 6-year-old was the one who shot Zyke. The 6-year-old then admitted to the shooting. Interviews point to the mom's concern about a gun possibly being brought into the home. The reports also paint the mother of 11 struggling to maintain the home. She told caseworkers she was in the kitchen getting ready to wash clothes because their washer was not working. Zyke's mom is currently in jail facing murder charges. In an interview with DFACS, Brittany Ryan said she told her oldest son not to have guns in the home, and he did it anyway. That son, Ladarian Ryans, is also facing murder charges. DFACS then describes the apartment, the living room covered with clothes, trash, pill bottles, and dirty diapers. Dog feces were on the kitchen floor. A 9mm gun in the room where Zyke was shot, and a bullet hole in the wall. We asked if DFACS had investigated the mother before this deadly shooting, but the agency said any previous case files were not going to be made to the public, citing Georgia's open records law.
And we're continuing to follow this story. We are waiting on some more documents from DFACS to come back.
Also tonight, your last chance to have a say in the search for Aiken County's next school superintendent. Tonight's meeting at 7 o'clock at a couple of locations, the district office boardroom or the Wagner Sally High School auditorium. If you can't make it tonight, there is a survey you can fill out to take part. The goal is to hear from parents what qualities and characteristics this new superintendent should have. The link to that survey is on our website, wrdw.com. One man fighting through grief is pushing to keep his wife's memory alive by helping other patients during the holidays. We're going to show you how next here on News 12.
And it is going to be cold tonight and tomorrow, but then we're going to be on a warming trend heading into the weekend. We'll have that full forecast next. The weekend cooling back off again, though, once we get into next week. So the roller coaster ride of December continues.
Earlier this year, a longtime advocate for the homeless, Linda Barr, sadly passed away. She had a brain tumor that sent her to the hospital the day after Christmas. Despite still fighting through the grief, her husband's working to keep her name and her memory alive.
Nick Veland shows us how he's using her legacy to spread some cheer to cancer patients.
It was Linda's favorite time of the year.
If there was a child that wasn't getting anything or individual that needed something, right up to Christmas Day, we were out there getting things done.
And when the Christmas need is over, Randy and Linda Bars head up to the mountains.
Went up to North Georgia. That night it snowed, and bless her heart, she was able to get out and play just like a kid.
And around that time, Linda developed a headache.
She was walking to the bathroom and walked straight into a wall, and I knew something was wrong.
Randy called 911. Doctors discovered a tumor on Linda's brain, and the rest of the holiday season was spent at the hospital. Linda eventually passed away on April 18th.
There's such a feeling of loss. So, and people say it gets better, but I don't know how long it's going to take.
With Christmas coming up, he's at a loss of words for having to celebrate without Linda.
I'm afraid. I really don't know.
He didn't want to do anything, but one night, Randy dreamt of angels, and he saw this as a message from Linda and got decorating. Wanting to do more to honor Linda, he's giving out more than 300 ornaments and gift bags to cancer patients at the hospital.
It's being able to ring the bell when you complete the treatment. So I added little bells to each angel.
Linda never got to ring her bell, so honoring her legacy keeps Randy going.
If I can brighten someone else's Christmas, I'm going to try to do that. So in her name. I mean, she was just that type of person.
And Augusta, Nick Veland on your side.
Don't you know Linda is looking down so happy.
Absolutely. Not even a year since her death, so it's all still fresh
So
to him.
fresh,
but it's good to see him pouring his life into some other people.
One of the only ways you can get through grief like that is just trying to give back.
Keep on
but
giving back.
He'll definitely be in our prayers too. We know it's not easy. Well, will there be a champagne toast on New Year's here in Augusta? One decision seems like it will impact business at bars this New Year's Eve. We're going to break it down next at 6 o'clock.
First Alert Radar, powered by Jim Hudson Automotive Group. This year,
We reported last night frustration from bar owners who are mad about the Augusta Commission's decision not to allow Sunday sales on New Year's Eve.
Under Georgia law, you're only allowed to have Sunday sales once a year, and commissioners already voted to have it on Super Bowl Sunday this year. News 12's Craig Allison is live in downtown Augusta with how this decision ripples into other businesses.
A coin flip decision that has businesses predicting a silent night here in downtown Augusta. It's thousands of dollars from bar owners, but as it turns out, this decision pours over into other businesses nearby as well.
People love to go out first, grab something to eat, and then head out to the bars. And now they're going to go to Columbia, they're going to go to Atlanta, they're going to go somewhere else, but they're not going to come downtown.
Manny's Off-Broad has been going strong for 17 months in downtown Augusta. While they're not affected on New Year's Eve since they have a license to serve food and alcohol, the night ends early on December 31st with bars not being able to stay open.
We were really hoping that we could bank on that. I mean, that's a lot of money for them, but it's also a lot of money for everybody downtown. Yeah, just loss on revenue, a couple thousand, easily.
From bar owners we interviewed yesterday, the night would be a loss of $5,000 to $10,000.
But first of all, it's a drag, no doubt about it. I mean, it's an antiquated law. Under the law, we're a manufacturing space with a retail presence, and so because of that, we've always been allowed to be open on Sundays, and we will for New Year's Eve.
But for those who will have to close their doors altogether, the lack of communication is frustrating.
They would reach out to those business leaders and say, hey, we got a chance to go to Super Bowl Sunday or New Year's Eve. Which one do you want? I guarantee they'll take New Year's Eve anytime.
For this law to change, people would need to change the ordinance, and the only way to do that is to either have state intervention or a county-wide election where everyone can weigh in. In downtown Augusta, Craig Allison on your side.
Okay, certainly a frustrating time for those business owners.
And as we said last night, not enough time to fix things before New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it's just too bad, so sad.
on your sideline, sports brought to you by the Hawk Law Group.
The GHSA Football State Championships are kicking off next week, and this year, all of the state title games will be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. After falling in the state championship last year, the Swainsboro Tigers are going back to Atlanta with another opportunity to win a state championship and bring it back home to the CSRA. Swainsboro's road to get back to the state championship game has been anything but easy this year, and they've certainly faced their share of challenges, including playing all 4 of their previous playoff games on the road. Head coach Scott Roberts told me that when his team gets to Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Monday, their team will have traveled a total of 1,073 miles in the playoffs alone over the past 4 weeks. That road warrior mentality is something that this team has embodied and is using to motivate themselves ahead of their state championship rematch against Prince Avenue Christian, the same team that defeated the Tigers in the state championship 1 year ago.
Every big play is magnified, and every mistake is magnified. And so you just have to play the best football you can and understand that playoff football is different, and you better show up.
Kickoff of the Class 1A Division I state championship game between Swainsboro and Prince Avenue is set for Monday at 4 o'clock in Atlanta. I'll have live coverage that night from the Benz to break down a game between 2 teams who have certainly earned the opportunity to shine under the brightest lights in Atlanta. Reporting from Swainsboro, Dan Booth on your side.
All right, thank you for that, Dan, and best of luck to the Tigers as they continue that championship run. We are expecting a cold night down into the 20s by early tomorrow morning. Now look at that 7-day forecast just after a quick break.
The First Alert team, named best in Georgia.
We are excited to announce that the Medicare Specialist is now 64 Insurance Group. And while we've expanded our portfolio to include other health insurance products, we are still your go-to for all things Medicare. Don't wait until you're 65 to call. Are64.com.
I'm Mike. Well, here's a live look just outside of our building. A nice night with clear skies overhead, and temperatures already in the 40s for most spots. We're going to see the 20s by early tomorrow morning, so it is going to be a cold evening and a cold night for us. Throughout the day tomorrow, we're going to see temperatures stay cold through at least around 8, 9 p.m. or 9 a.m., and then we're working our way to highs into the upper 50s by tomorrow afternoon. A lot of sunshine in store tomorrow. Should be beautiful out there, and definitely not going to be quite as gusty as what we did see out there for today. High temperatures remaining in the 50s tomorrow afternoons for most spots. Maybe a lucky spot again does get up to 60, but that warmer air does show up heading into the weekend. And unfortunately for the weekend, we are bringing back some rain chances by Sunday.
And that's going to wrap things up for News 12 at 6 o'clock.
Then we're back with more news tonight at 11. We'll see you then. At the CBS Evening News, we focus on solutions, finding solutions to help people understand what are the right choices to make for you and your family.
Don't ignore the signs.